Hi, this is Addie Gundry, author of Everyday Dinner Ideas, and you're listening to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast. I'm your host, Nate Goss. Today, we bring you another edition of our Locally Sourced segment, where we interview local business owners about a book that has special significance in their lives. As the summer blazes on into July and August, we thought it would be the perfect time to talk ice cream and other refreshing treats with Chris, one of the owners of Libertyville's newest dessert shop, My Flavorite Place. Chris was kind enough to take time out of his very busy schedule to tell us about their premium soft-serve ice cream, authentic Hawaiian shaved ice, and of course, share with us one of his favorite books. His book, coincidentally, also happened to be one of my personal faves. So I hope you enjoy this conversation I had with Chris from My Flavorite Place. All right, well, Chris Hamill, welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Nate.
So you are the owner of a new ice cream shop here in Libertyville called My Flavorite Place. And do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about your business? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually one of three partners. It's my wife and her mom, so it's kind of a family
thing. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Her mom started it way back when, in 2003, with her brother. Changed over in 2009, I believe, and we renamed it My Flavorite Place. It used to be called Uncle T's.
Okay.
So we are a local Hawaiian shaved ice cream shop. It's very unique what we do, especially the Hawaiian shaved ice aspect. A lot of people get it confused with a snow cone. Very easy to call it a snow cone, but it's much different, much better than a snow cone.
Okay.
We have a machine that puts a block of ice in it and literally shaves it so the consistency is like freshly fallen snow. And all of our syrups are made with real sugar in-house, so you're not, no high fructose corn syrup, no saccharin.
Wow.
The better side of bad, I like to call it.
Yeah.
And it just melts in your mouth. And then our ice cream, it's actually award-winning ice cream. We won last year Daily Herald's Reader's Digest Best of the Best ice cream.
What is it about your ice cream that sets it apart that much to become the best of the best?
I think it's just quality.
Okay.
It really is. We source it out of a dairy up in Wisconsin, so it's good stuff. I believe our vanilla is 6% milk fat, chocolate's 5%, so it's very rich, very hearty. It doesn't leave you with that kind of sour, whatever aftertaste that some soft serve places may have because it's, just the mix is a little different.
Sure.
With our ice cream, you can add all these toppings to it. You can make yourself sundaes, milkshakes. It's a fusion of the two, the ice and the ice cream. So we have a few different items as well that are a little bit unique to us. One of our signature items actually is a brain freeze.
Okay.
Where you take any...
It sounds crazy.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's one of my favorite things on the menu. We take half ice cream, half of our slushy mix, and we mix it with any flavor choice. And we have, probably 35, 40 individual flavors that we mix it.
Uh-huh.
My favorite is getting it with orange. It tastes like a dreamsicle. If you've ever had
Excellent.
a
Yeah, that kind of creamy with the orange sherbet.
Yep. So you get the creaminess from the ice cream, but the icy consistency from the slushy. So
yeah.
It's fantastic.
That does sound fantastic.
Yeah,
so with the high-end ingredients, it's almost like you're kind of doing craft ice cream, or like
in a way, yeah.
Just sourcing the best ingredients,
right.
And from beginning to end, thinking it through really.
Exactly. And a big
really
thing
well.
for us is our culture. We try to maintain a family atmosphere, a hometown feel, and kind of our philosophy is if you can think it, if you can imagine it, we can create it for you. Because we allow customers, get as crazy as you want, as creative as you want. We're only limited to your imagination, so come on in and get something that you really, truly want.
When did the Libertyville location open up?
The Libertyville one opened up last fall.
Okay.
We kind of had a little bit of a setback coming into our just build out and construction, so it caused us to open later than we wished. And we are seasonal, so we do close kind of for the dead of winter months, but our season typically runs March, April to November, December. We have 3 other locations on top of our Libertyville one. We've got Lake Zurich, Wakanda, and Palatine. So all 4 now are running full steam. This is the first year having all 4 shops opening right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So far, so good. It's been a year of learning so far.
I'm sure.
then we also do outside events.
Oh, that's
another huge aspect of our business. We go all over, do all sorts of different events.
Like festivals or, the different village festivals.
We'll do festivals, we'll do mitzvahs, corporate events, birthday parties, backyard barbecues, you name it.
Yeah.
We'll show up.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's something different than being in the shops and everything, so it gives me a different look at, just a different side of the business.
Now, where exactly are you in Libertyville?
Libertyville, we are right on Milwaukee, just across the street from Liberty Theater.
Okay.
So we're right at the intersection of Lake and Milwaukee, right next to, there's a dry cleaners on the corner.
Yep.
So we're in that little strip mall
the Casa
area.
Bonita is right there. Right?
Yeah, it's just across the street, across Lake.
Yeah, that's some smart planning. Go see your movie and then go get an ice cream afterwards.
You know, you get some tacos, go see a movie, and get ice cream.
Get your whole event.
Yep, the triangle of deliciousness.
Was there a reason why you chose Libertyville as your next location?
I know Anna, the owner, my wife's mom, she's had her eye on it for a while. Libertyville just seems like a very great community. They've been well receiving of us and local businesses in general. And it's just a very active town. There's a lot of people always out, busy downtown, active community overall. And it's just a good feeling down here. So we enjoy being here, and we're happy we opened up.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thanks, man.
So, okay, Chris, why don't we go ahead and let's pivot to, the what we usually do in these podcasts. This is locally sourced, where I've asked you to pick out a book that has some type of special significance to you or just a favorite book of yours.
Sure.
So what's the book that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Today I chose The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson.
Now, full confession, this is also one of my favorite books.
Although
it's been quite a few years since I've read it, so it's been a little bit of a refresher trying to get up on this. It's a pretty popular book actually, but if a listener hasn't ever looked into what it's about, can you just briefly describe what this book is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this book, it's a nonfiction, but it's written in a way that it almost reads like a fictional story.
Yeah,
because some of the stuff you wouldn't believe that happened. But basically, it's a recount of the 1893 Columbian Exposition, or the Chicago World's Fair.
Yeah.
And it talks about the architects that were tasked with this giant project ahead of them to build basically the whole setup for the Chicago World's Fair. All the buildings, the layout, everything. But simultaneously, while that's also happening, the story also tells of basically America's first serial killer.
Okay. So you got some true crime in there
as well.
Exactly,
yeah. So it's a very interesting take on two different stories that are linked, by this World's Fair, because they're all happening at the same time. You've got these architects with this impossible task ahead of them, and then you've got this guy that's new to town. There's something a little off about him, and it just, his cleverness, his crafty just behavior on how he goes about doing what he does it's very unique, and it truly is. I believe it. They claim it to be him as the very first serial killer America's known of, or at least the most prolific at that time.
Now, do you remember the first time you read this book, or when was the first time?
It was actually last year.
Oh, really? So it's recent. Okay.
It was. I had picked it up because I was, I'd be working in the shops in the fall, and it's kind of slows down. So I'm like, well, might as well keep myself busy doing something.
Yeah.
And I picked up this book, and honestly, every time I picked it up, I had a hard time putting it down, because just the way it was written, I was immersed in the book itself, because I literally felt like I was in the streets of Chicago. I could see everything that he was talking about. I could smell the smells that he was describing. He just did an excellent job of telling the story, and it's almost, you almost develop personal relationships with each character, because especially the fact that they're real people, you get inside their mind, you get inside their feelings and everything, and so that's what really captured me.
And how did you even come across the book?
Actually, my brother had recommended it to me. He's currently a high school English teacher, so funny enough, the kid that never liked reading growing up loves reading now and is an English teacher teaching it to her,
Well, sometimes that's the best way to connect with the students,
because
absolutely. You know where they're at if they're a reluctant reader.
Yes, exactly. So he recommended it to me, and I'm like, okay. I checked it out actually at the Wakanda Library, which is where I live, and it was one of the first books I think I completed since I got out of college. So it's kind of bad to say, but hey, I'm glad it was this book, though.
No, but it's true, though. I've heard a lot of people say that about this book. Erik Larson is the writer here, and he really does have a way of writing history in a way that really feels like you're reading a novel
Yes.
more than just a recounting of history.
Right.
I mean, it's told so story-like.
Yes.
You know, the way it unfolds everything. The beginning of each chapter reads like a novel.
It really does.
But everything in quotations is actually something that was said.
Yep.
And, you know, and all these people are real, and you can look through all the things that happened, and, you know, it's all fact-checked very well, but he just has a way of bringing it alive that way.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did his research to compile everything in this book.
So was the Chicago connection a draw to you at all?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I like going downtown.
Yeah.
You know, I've never lived down there or anything, but going down there is always an experience because I appreciate history and just Chicago, knowing where it came from to where it is today is just miraculous on
Yeah.
what they've done.
Yeah, and one of the things that kind of I think you learn from reading this book is how much that World's Fair was a key component to the Chicago that we know today.
Oh,
like
my
that,
God.
like that, and even them trying to get the panel or whatever to agree to have the
Yes.
World's Fair at Chicago is a story in itself. in
Yeah,
this book.
that kind of feeds into the whole the corruptness almost with Chicago and like the windy city and how these politicians are a little not so great people. But then also it ties in, like you said, with how Chicago came to be today. And this was like right in the heart of the Industrial Revolution in America, which is my all-time favorite part of history,
Really?
American history. Yeah, because it correlates with, I mean, I'm an entrepreneurial kind of guy
yeah.
running business, and then all of these things, all these big names that we use today and hear today really all started in 1893.
Yeah.
Got their first look.
Yeah, and when you even read about like just the extraordinary things they did to pull this off
Yes.
in the city, because the city was really not in a place
No.
to host it.
No, not
but,
at all.
But they did just some amazing feats within a matter of just, I think, 2 years or so
Yep.
to get this off the ground.
Roughly 2 years.
Larson brings up the whole history of the Ferris wheel because the
Yep.
Ferris wheel was unveiled for the first
Yes.
time at this World's Fair.
Yeah, it was George Ferris.
Yeah,
and their
George
big
Ferris.
thing was they wanted to out Eiffel.
Yes,
Because
yes.
the Eiffel Tower had been previously built, and they're like, I want to do it better than those guys. And so there was this huge thing of what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And then you had this guy that came along. He's like, I got an idea. And I think everybody was wondering what he was up to
Yeah.
the whole time. And then until the big unveil, and then it just was met with awe by everyone who saw it, who rode in it, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And then even off of that, like how you were saying, just how they overcame so many major feats and challenges. Like Chicago, I don't know if you knew it after reading the book. I didn't know really, but Chicago's a swamp.
Yeah, I learned it in the book, actually.
Yeah, Chicago is-
especially where they had the World's
Right,
Fair.
like Jackson Park.
Jackson
I think
Park,
they called
yeah.
it Jackson Hole because it was basically just like a sludge pit. And then you got Daniel Burnham, who's the lead architect. He was the big name, and even today he's known for building some of the greatest architectural feats that still stand today. But he actually, from the book, I remember, he basically pioneered a system, a way of building skyscrapers. Because, they would dig down into the earth, and it's like this sludgy mess that you can't really build a foundation to. So he was the guy that put together the idea of let's use steel and concrete to build these foundations, and then now you could build a building that's more than 3 stories tall.
The mentality it would take to want to do something like that almost seems foreign nowadays. Like that sort of, I would call it maybe like a civic honor, like
Sure.
that you just want to do something to put your city on the map. You know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of heart, a lot of compassion. They dug their heels in and said, "No, I'm going to do it. I want this." So it was a very selfless thing for them to do. Daniel Burnham, he lost his partner along the way.
Yeah.
Because back then, I mean, medical care was nowhere near what it was today, and so you're doing all these buildings and in these conditions that they were working in, and so it truly took, as you said, like a lot of just heart to get through it all and a desire to do something more than yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what all these guys were doing is working towards something that was greater than all of them. And yeah, it is very rare to see that these days without, the idea of money and profitability getting in the way.
Yep.
Classic capitalist America.
Sure. Now we've talked a lot about kind of half the book. But there really is the other half, which is all about this serial killer.
Right.
Did you find yourself enjoying one side more than the other of the book, or do you which side do you kind of tend to enjoy thinking about more? The more aspirational, pulling everything together of the fair, or the darker sort of this smaller story of the serial killer that essentially just took advantage of the fair and killed a bunch of people?
Very much so, unfortunately. I think what resonates more is the first half, the aspirational side, because it kind of correlates to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I see what they're doing and I see what I'm doing. And it's like you're just grinding it out and hustling and just putting your all into something. That part of the book, I think, really rings true to me, to what I'm doing now and just my life philosophies and mindset in general.
Yeah.
But you can't help but knock the fascinating side of the serial killer, H.H. Holmes. I mean, the stuff that he did, he had his murder castle that he built just specifically to trap people and kill them.
And it was sort of like named off the World's Fair. It was almost like an attraction that he'd say, you got to come see this thing.
Fair Hotel.
World's Fair Hotel, I think was what it was, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. And the crazy thing he would do, as he's building it, he would hire all these contractors and then he would fire them in the middle of their tasks so that not all one company or one person knew all the ins and outs of this design that he was putting in.
Which had like weird chutes in it.
Yes,
and,
it had rooms that didn't make sense. They had like passages that just ended, doors that would lock behind you. I mean, all in an effort to just trap these people and kill them slowly in a way. As horrible as they were, like, it's just fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you do you enjoy like true crime, or are there other true crime things that you enjoy?
Yeah, there are some. I think I watched a documentary on Jeffrey Dahmer a while back, and he's another fascinating creature.
Sure. Well, yeah.
And I say creature, and that's fitting.
Yeah.
Those individuals are
psychotic.
There's something more than just human. But yeah, I definitely find that niche of things kind of interesting to me.
Do you have a favorite, like a favorite line or a favorite character or favorite moment in the book?
Man, like thinking about it, I remember there were times when I would just stop and reread certain sections and just like, wow. Towards the end of the book, it kind of recaps all the different like notable things that came out of the World's Fair, and like how it said that Walt Disney's father would share stories of how this whole thing was built to little Walt at the time, and then he basically took that inspiration and built Disney World.
Yeah.
You got Louis Pasteur, who developed the pasteurization process to provide...
Very important for your ice cream business, right?
For ice cream, for drinking water, because they were looking like, well, how are we going to supply drinking water? They reversed the flow of the Chicago River to flow outwards. I mean, I think it was either Edison or Tesla.
Tesla was there, yeah. Edison was doing all sorts of stuff too, I think.
One of them, I think with the help of J.P. Morgan at the time, had landed the contract to provide the lighting for the entire fair. So that's incredible, because that was like one of the largest scales of use of electricity at the time that came out of there. So just the whole book was just chock full of very interesting tidbits of things that happened back then that we still use today and are developing on.
Yeah.
And they've just created this huge foundation for innovation and growth and just new exciting things.
Yeah, and it's funny that you want to talk about this book, because it was only a few weeks ago I was talking to my wife about the World's Fair. I think I was at Portillo's and I saw something about the World's Fair in there or something like that. And I was just talking to her about how this book made me think, like, I wonder why they stopped doing World's Fairs. First of all.
Great question.
And also, like, wouldn't that be cool if they just kind of picked it up again? Because you could go through each World's Fair and it seems like it was just sort of the pinnacle of humanity and what humanity could do.
Absolutely.
And we don't have anything like that right now.
I kind of thought that myself. I'm like, man, that would be so cool. I wonder what a World's Fair would look like
today's
today.
World Fair would be awesome.
It would be ridiculous.
Yeah. My favorite place could provide the
That's right. We could be there selling shaved ice for
Yep.
everyone. Shaved ice and ice cream for all.
But you wonder if they had a World's Fair today, like what city would arise to the occasion and build itself out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I guess it's kind of similar to how countries address the Olympics.
Sure. Yeah.
It's similar because it's like a multi-billion-dollar feat that every hosting city goes through to accommodate, any Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be, if it would be more or less than that, who knows?
Yeah.
But it'd be exciting to see nonetheless.
Very cool. So if people really do like this book, or if they've already read it and they are kind of reminiscing with us but wish we had something else for them to maybe check out like it, I've actually got a few recommendations.
Okay.
One of them is actually another Erik Larson book. If you like Erik Larson, his style is pretty much like that in all of his books, and he wrote a really good book about the Lusitania called Dead Wake. So
I've seen that.
It's kind of like, it's not the same exact time period, but we're talking like early 1900s, and he just writes a really compelling tale about the sinking of the Lusitania and how that kind of fed into World War I and all that stuff. So there's that. The other one that I think really fits well as a companion to this book is another historical nonfiction book by Candace Millard, who's another excellent writer who knows how to write history that really comes alive. But it's called Destiny of the Republic, and it's actually about the assassination of President James Garfield. It's another one that has a lot of the same appeals because he's this president we don't really know a lot about, but he actually could have been a really great president. But the guy who shot him was also just kind of psychotic, and it kind of goes into his psychosis and what made him want to kill the president.
Yeah.
And same kind of Gilded Age time period. So
Okay.
I would recommend either Dead Wake or Destiny of the Republic if anyone's looking for maybe a follow-up to Devil in the White City.
Sounds good. I'm going to have to check out some of those.
Yeah,
myself.
I didn't know if you knew this, but Leonardo DiCaprio has the rights to the movie for this.
Yes,
and Martin Scorsese, I think, is set to direct it.
Yep. I kind of, after reading this book, I did a little more research on it. I was like, what is this? And I found that, and I was super stoked.
Yeah.
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 I'm waiting for them to put that one out.
I don't know if DiCaprio's planning on playing the architect or the serial killer.
Yeah, I know he was in between. Either way.
He could go either way.
Yeah, I'm sure you do a great job.
All right, well, Chris, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to come to the library and do this podcast and share this book with you, and best of luck with the ice cream place.
Thanks, Nate, for having me. This was a blast, something different out of my day, so I appreciate you having me, and it's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Chris, and I'm thinking that after that conversation, you're just about sold on relaxing outside with The Devil in the White City in one hand and a cold Hawaiian shaved ice in the other. So I recommend you head on over to My Favorite Place right over on Main Street across from the movie theater, or you can get more details about the shop at myflavoriteplace.com. That's MyFlavoriT place.com. If you would like to check out Erik Larson's Devil in the White City, visit our website at cooklib.org to see what's available. We have that book in pretty much every single format, whether you like regular type, large type, ebook, or audiobook. I also recommend visiting the library's blog, Shelf Life, where our librarians talk about what we're reading and what we are into lately. That blog can be found at shelflife.cooklib.org. We always encourage you to reach out and get in contact with us. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to see on the show. You can talk to us anytime on Twitter. Our handle is @CookLibrary, or send us an email. Send that over to webmaster@cooklib.org. And if you enjoyed this episode, one of the best things you can do to help us out is just spread the word. Share it with others and let them know that they can catch all future episodes by subscribing in Apple Podcasts or anywhere they like to get their podcasts. We will be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.